President Trump receives a briefing about UFOs, Justin Trudeau receives a secret memo about UAP, and more. It's time for another UFO News Roundup. Get in here, this is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like, please subscribe, share on social media, and let me know what you think in the comments below. Oh, and if you wanted to support Cosmic Road in a bigger way, please consider becoming a channel member. See the first link in the description below. By the way, I'm sorry I didn't have a video for you guys yesterday afternoon. I had a friend unexpectedly drop by, and I spent all day with him yesterday, and I didn't get a video out, and I was getting a little late start today. But I am back at it now, so let's go over the Justin Trudeau memo. Secret memo raises more questions about UFO shootdowns over Alaska, Canada, and this is from The Drive. Following the shootdown of 3 unidentified objects in 3 days over Alaska, the Yukon, and Lake Huron in February, and the downing of a Chinese spy balloon off the coast of South Carolina a week earlier, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau received a secret memo laying out how the Canadian government was responding to the February 11th Yukon incident. In addition, it stated the full exploitation of whatever the U.S. Air Force shot down over the waters of Alaska on February 10th had not yet been completed. Interesting. Reports a few days later stated that the U.S. had called off the search for wreckage of the downed object. Exactly what kind of intelligence exploitation this is referring to is unclear. Is it intelligence exploitation or is it technological exploitation? The memorandum for the Prime Minister transmitted February 14th was obtained by the Canadian CTV news outlet from a source who filed a FOIA request that the news organization said it verified with its own information request. Anyway, I'm not going to go through the whole article. There's not a whole lot more information here about about the nature of those UAP. It doesn't give the secret of what those UAP are, if indeed they were anything more than spy balloons or spy vehicles of some sort. My mind is still very open to the whole balloon gate thing. I think it's likely that it's just a bunch of spy vehicles and, balloons and stuff. However, if that were true, then why didn't they release any videos or photos of those additional 3 objects after that first Chinese surveillance balloon shootdown? And also, why was it right at that time that the White House formed its own inter-office UAP agency that has since gone on to have some sort of hand in matters that are going on right now in Washington, D.C.? I'm talking about the Schumer-Rounds Amendment. So, I don't know what happened there. I would love more information about that. This memo doesn't really provide that, but it is interesting that they were interested in exploiting some technology or intelligence or something related to these UAP. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Meanwhile, in an interview with Hugh Hewitt, President Trump reveals that he was given a briefing on UFOs.
Last question, Mr. President. The UFO issue is back. The Tennessee congressman wants it. What did you learn about UFOs when you were in the Oval? Do you believe in them?
That's a very interesting question. I'll tell you. You have believers in that like you wouldn't believe, and they're very solid people. And then you have people that don't believe. And I really more focused on Russia, and I focused on China, and I focused on North Korea. You have people, though, I will tell you, I interviewed a couple of people from the Air Force, and these guys were central casting, perfect guys with their crew cuts, and they walked in, they were handsome as hell. I said, what do you think? And they believe it. I mean, they believe it. They said they saw it. And
so you got briefed on UFOs? You got briefed on them?
What?
When you were president, they briefed you on UFOs?
I was briefed, yeah. I was briefed.
So do you believe in them?
I always have an open mind, but you know what? I focused on things like China and...
Okay, so he pivots. He doesn't really answer the question, but he does say that he was briefed on UFOs. He doesn't say whether he believes in UFOs. However, I think of Ross Coulthard and what he said about Trump, and basically looked to Trump for UFO disclosure or something to do with UFO disclosure. Ross did not elaborate on what he meant by that. I would love to know what Ross did mean by that. Also there's Haim Eshed, the Israeli brigadier general and chief of the Israeli space program's security, and he was in on he was a high muckety muck of the Israeli space program for many, many years, and a very credible guy. And just recently, the last couple of years, he released a book that talked about UFOs a little bit. And it did say that Trump was briefed on this stuff and that he wanted to go public with it, even including more outlandish elements like the Galactic Federation, that there was humanity, or parts of humanity had an agreement with the Galactic Federation, and that Trump was going to go public with all this, but he was talked out of it at the last minute. So, is that true? I don't know. Haim Eshed is a very credible person. And then you have Ross Coulthart saying something to the effect of look to Trump for something to do with UFO disclosure. So I have no idea if that were true. I would expect Trump to be positioning himself to do that instead of getting very vague non-answers as he did here. But that's just me. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Try not to get too political. I'm trying to keep this non-political. Anyway, a really interesting story either way. Meanwhile, one of the most important things going on right now is, of course, the Schumer-Rounds Amendment. And it appears that Danny Sheehan actually has some insight into that. It may even have had some input into that. So let's give a listen.
This is an extraordinary period. We're just coming back into Washington. I'm flying out of here Wednesday morning to go back to Washington, D.C., to be in meetings with people in the Senate Intelligence Committee and others, and in the House Oversight Committee, et cetera, that we're in the process of initiating a period where the president is going to appoint within 45 days after the passage of this act, which is scheduled tentatively for December 22nd of 2023. Within 45 days, the president has to nominate 9 people to sit on this panel. And the Senate, just like Supreme Court justices, are going to be reviewing that. And they have to give their advice and consent to the people that the president nominates. If they disapprove of any given one person that President Biden nominates, then he replaces them with someone else, just like a Supreme Court justice. But this extraordinarily high-level process is getting ready to commence now. And so that somewhere in the middle of February of 2024, this panel is going to be put together and basically approved. And then the 180-day clock starts to run. And so within 6 months of this mid-February kind of standing up of this committee, all of these different agencies in the United States government that are part of this legacy program have to turn over the information to this particular panel. And then they have another 180 days to go through the process of releasing, number one, all of the information that the United States government came into possession of prior to 25 years ago, which is going to include Roswell, it's going to include the Aztec sightings, it's going to include, Betty and Barney Hill information, it's going to include all of that stuff, okay? And then there's going to begin another 180-day period during which this information that they want to continue to postpone is going to be put over into the hands of this panel. And they're going to start deciding what the controlled disclosure plan is going to be to get the president to sign off on it. So that's what's happening right now. This is kind of a lot of information for people.
It is, but I really appreciate it, Danny. Thank you very much. There's a lot to go through there, but so I was really intrigued by this idea of a planned disclosure, initiative. I wonder what that plan is exactly. But what's most interesting to me about this segment is that Danny Sheehan seems very optimistic about the Schumer-Rounds Amendment, and he doesn't discuss how it might not happen. He seems to think that it will. That's a much more optimistic stance than Tim Burchett. So I hope that Danny is the one that's right on this. But Danny Sheehan also seems to have some input into the creation of the gatekeeping committee, because that's the all important committee that's going to filter information out to the public per the Schumer-Rounds Amendment. And let's just listen and let Danny explain it.
Our New Paradigm Institute, from our Romero Institute, we've set up the New Paradigm Institute. We're opening offices in Washington, D.C. this week, and are going to be overseeing this whole process on behalf of the citizenry, okay? And that we have been asked to help nominate people to this panel, this 9-member panel. So you and I have been engaged in this discussion over the past several days of figuring out who we're going to recommend to be nominated by the president to this panel. You're going to be heading up our Washington office that I'm going in Wednesday to set the office up for you. It's the only civilian building inside the federal compound. The federal compound that includes all the House of Representatives, Congress,
This is Jim Garrison. This is who Danny was talking to, the guy that's going to oversee their Washington office. He's with Humanity Rising. And so they have direct input, apparently, into this gatekeeping committee of 9 people who are going to possibly provide some sort of blueprint of disclosure, or, spoon feed us drip by drip per this plan that they have for disclosure. Now, obviously, this gatekeeping committee is going to be super important to us who are interested in disclosure. So we need to keep our eye on this and look to who they appoint, and are they true advocates of disclosure and transparency, or are they going to give us a bunch of BS, like the recent Arrow website, giving us BS about Roswell, saying it's weather balloons. So, is it going to be that? Or are they genuinely committed to disclosure? I think that Danny Sheehan absolutely is. And I suspect that the people that he would recommend for this panel would be as well. So I'm optimistic about it, but we definitely need to keep our eyes on these guys and make sure. Meanwhile, as things heat up in Washington, the mainstream media continues to be engaged in this subject, and I think that is fabulous. This is an article from the Washington Post. In the U.S., most UFO documentation is classified. Not so in other countries. What? Rio de Janeiro. Early one August evening in 1954, a Brazilian plane was tracked by a UFO of strong luminosity that didn't appear on radar. 2 decades later, a river community in the northern Amazon jungle was repeatedly visited by glowing orbs that beam lights down onto the inhabitants. In 1986, more than 20 UAP lit up the skies over Brazil's most populous state, sending the Brazilian Air Force out in pursuit. The stories are not the ravings of a UFO buff. They are official assessments by Brazilian pilots and military officers who often struggle to put into words what they'd seen, and can be found in Brazil's remarkable historical archive of reported UFO visitations. Even more extraordinary, it's all public record. Imagine that, right? Imagine if we had that level of transparency in the U.S. It's hard to imagine. Land of the free, right? There are no security clearances, no heavily redacted documents. Anyone can access the files, the military reports, the videos and audio recordings, the grainy, unverified photographs, and thousands of people have. It's comparatively easy to get this information here, said Rodolfo Santos, a historian at the Federal Institute of Minas Gerais. I said that right. And the variety of records is good and considerable. Brazil and the United States are 2 countries of continental proportions, frequent UFO sightings, and active communities of ET enthusiasts. But how each has responded to the most fundamental of human questions, are we alone, has been sharply different. In the U.S., the matter of UAP has often been treated as a closely guarded government secret. Meanwhile, in Brazil and much of South America, there has been a more relaxed attitude toward the inexplicable, the public's right to know, and the limits of scientific explanation. Now, while that may be true, it's also worth pointing out that the countries of South America have worked with the U.S. with crash retrievals. The U.S. will go into these countries. They will shoot down a UFO. It's happened multiple times. The Lance Corporal Weigand case, the Majes Brazil case, etc. And they will, execute beings. They will retrieve these craft. They will terrorize people into silence. So the UFO control group, even though it may be a multinational effort, it certainly seems to be led by the U.S. Well, really, it's probably led by the beings that are working with us, but it's humanly led by the U.S. And they will go into South America and push people around and get their own way on this stuff. So I mean, absolutely, the South American government is more transparent than the U.S. government on this issue, but they haven't given those details, have they? They haven't gone out and talked about how the UFO control group is doing this stuff. So I totally support the transparency, and but I don't want people to get the impression that they are completely and totally open, as this article would lead people to believe. But I really do support this article because it is taking the UFO topic very seriously. It's not winking or laughing or smirking. It's a very, pro UFO article. And what's more, it's putting pressure on the U.S. government to be more transparent on this topic. So all in all, a great article, and I'll link to it in the description below. Meanwhile, other media outlets, the Daily UK Mail is reporting that NASA holds top secret conferences to discuss what the space agency should do if its $10 billion James Webb Telescope finds aliens, scientists reveal. And Congressman Jared Muskowitz is saying they should tell us. And they should. Are they going to? I don't expect it, but, who knows? But also, NASA knows. NASA knows there's aliens already here, or non-humans already here. They have evidence of that, and they've been hiding evidence of it since their inception. They have probably been working with the UFO control group, again, since their inception. I don't know what the hell NASA's doing. I think most of NASA is a legit organization devoted to space exploration and, expanding our horizons of science. But there is definitely a core group of NASA that is in on this. And I have to wonder what else they are doing. Because if they are involved in, working with whatever operations the UFO control group has, well, I mean, the UFO control group has access to UFO technology. They're jetting around in their own UFOs. They've got saucers, guys. They've got saucers. So, NASA is rocket science. NASA is propulsion technology. They have spent many, many billions of dollars on propulsion technology. UFOs don't use propulsion technology. So, there's a disconnect there, and there seems to be, you can see the breakaway civilization versus the civilization that we live in, right? That's what Richard Dolan calls the UFO control group, is the breakaway civilization. And it really seems to be, because they are operating with totally different technology, doing a whole different deal. And they seem very large. You can only imagine the quality of life that the rest of the world would enjoy if they would share this technology with the rest of us. Now, maybe they have good reasons for withholding this stuff. If we had access to this sort of energy, we could certainly use it for harm as well as good. So, opening Pandora's box, Prometheus, and stealing the secret of fire and so on. You can use fire for bad, right? And this unlimited energy could theoretically wipe out humanity. So, maybe that's why they're doing it. On the other hand, can we trust these guys with that level of power? I don't. Is the UFO control group, who has been assassinating people and brainwashing people for decades and decades, working with beings that may or may not be aligned with humanity's best interest, can they be trusted with this stuff more than the general populace? Not according to me. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this UFO Roundup, give me a big thumbs up. I sure would appreciate it. Smash the subscribe button and the button to be notified of future videos. Join me on social media. There's Facebook and Twitter links below. I would love to see you guys there. And if you could share this video on social media, that would be super helpful. I would really appreciate it. If you wanted to support Cosmic Road in a bigger way, please consider becoming a channel member. See the first link in the description below. Channel members are rock stars, guys. I love you guys. Thank you so much for your support. And meanwhile, there's plenty of other videos to check out on the channel, and I'll see you guys next time. This is Jack with Cosmic Road, signing out.